Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniature. And you know what I'm always complaining about on this channel is a serious lack of classical Chinese fantasy. There just isn't much out there. And really, we should be doing something about that. Well, finally, somebody seems to have heeded that call that there is a serious dearth of, just the rich cultural, stylings of traditional Chinese fantasy. And I mean, it's been around for a while, and it's very much, in its roots in mythological stuff and wuxia series of various sorts over the years. And finally, so Printerra Studios has gone and done something that needed to be done for some time, and they've actually put out a cool little set of nothing but Chinese fantasy figures. So they have an overarching adventure that deals with the four dragon kings of the ocean, if I remember correctly. And they're all the colored ones, the red, blue, white, and green. My Chinese mythology is nowhere near as adequate what it should be. I'm much more familiar with Japanese stuff. But look, we've got the traditional wandering monk, and that's something that I've just been wanting to have, those traditional archetypes. Growing up watching all those old movies, serials, and TV shows, just something that I've really wanted to see represented properly on the tabletop. And finally, somebody is going to do that for me. So thank you, Printerra Studios, for finally stepping up to the plate. And honestly, it's funny. I've seen their stuff for some time. I remember when they did their big crowdfunding campaign for like their various themed ancient civilizations. It was like Roman, Celtic, and Japanese. And the Japanese stuff really piqued my interest. It just didn't work out at the time for me to back the campaign, but they had some really neat stuff in there. And one of these days, I'm absolutely going to grab their Mikos and their Onmyoji, because I've been playing Onmyoji on my phone for way too long, but that's a whole other story. So I saw those figures, and it's always been in the back of my mind. But I got to say, having seen what they've put out such a wide variety of themes. One month was like Indonesian mythology. Another month was the Epic of Gilgamesh. I mean, just not the usual stuff, and I'm all for that. And I'll be honest, and this is a bit of a harsh criticism, but the renders that they had on Patreon, on their website, or My Mini Factory just weren't grabbing me. I don't know if it was just the color choices or just the angles or something. Something didn't click. And I had my reservations even with this set, but then I was like, you know what? Nobody else is doing this stuff. I need to go ahead and print it. And I did, and I was quite pleased with it. And you can see I had a little bit of a print failure here. This was one of the very last batches of models I did on my good old workhorse Frozen Sonic Mini. I've got my big old Mono X chugging away, which you guys will see soon enough on here. But yeah, overall, I mean, look at this. We very traditional looking, grunts. I've always wanted to do like a tabletop Dynasty Warriors, Sangokushi Muso, Muso game, Koei Omega Force type, crowd brawler, battlers. This is perfect. Look at that halberd. I had a guy with a Guandao also, and I don't know what I did with him. And I know I printed him up. But, man, I would kill for just like a whole bunch of variety of poses of dudes like this. That's my big criticism with this set. I didn't print everything of it, obviously, yet. But they had so many cool ideas. And it's like, I just want more. One of their crane practitioners, students of the dragon. And I was impressed that I actually got all those little wispy bits off the print bed with no issues. Kudos to them, because I can't say that about everybody's. Yeah, and going back to the wandering monk here, looking at the original renders, I was like, yeah, it looks kind of, I almost want to say amateurish, but having the pose in front of me, I really, I feel almost like it's night and day. It's a pretty competent pose. And the fact that I can see his individual fingers and they're not a big mushy pile I mean, I'm not going to call out people with ham-fisted models because I know I certainly can't sculpt them. Let's see. I actually did print one of the Dragon Kings, the red one. I don't remember what his name is in Chinese, but with his big double-bladed staff. The dog hair on there naturally on a 40mm base. We'll get a size comparison with some of the other models I've got laying around. I know Clay Cyanide a while back did a release on Chinese mythology, and I don't know where I put them. I know they had the guy that looks like one of the characters in, is it Smite or something? I had to print that. I don't know where I put him. Did print a couple of the god figures that were included in the set. Size of that spear here, and the details on it, it's gonna be a lot of fun to paint. I have really wanted to have some of these like Chinese deities to paint, but we didn't get any flying swordsmen. Where's the dude, you know, floating on a sword with like 7 blades on his back? I want to say, is this the moon goddess? I know we have one of the water goddesses. I'm not sure what was going on with the back of her robes there, if that's supposed to be empty or billowy. It almost looks like there's supposed to be more coming off of there. Having played so much Dynasty Warrior games, my first thought is Warriors Orochi, and, you know, mirrors me, and she's shooting lasers, obviously. She's a little bit taller also than some of the other models, even though she does fit on a smaller base. But I'm saving some of the better things for last. There was also a ton of scenery available in literally every set that they've made so far, and it almost feels like old vintage play sets, like good guys versus bad guys, and I really dig that. And then they have a higher tier, of course, with extra goodies in there. I dug this. We had a seamstress. Not super exciting or, you know, elaborate, just something kind of simple. We don't get a lot of villagers. Smart use of resin too. She's probably going to need a large base for her. But the thing that really tipped me over, not the Dragon Kings, not the floating gods with their billowy scarf robe cloak things, not the Dynasty Warrior grunt dudes, not the cool, you know, Shaolin monk wandering around or the Kung Fu practitioners, but the fact that we've got a full-on Taoist priest's altar. Check that out. I was like, oh, that's getting printed. This is the first thing out of the set I printed, in fact. But you can't have the altar without the priest. And Mr. Vampire himself, somebody who grew up watching like Samo and, you know, Spooky Encounters or Encounters of the Spooky Kind, Mr. Vampire movies, that is full-on Lam Ching Ying. That is awesome. And he actually had 2 poses. They had one with his wooden sword there, and another as he's off to vanquish ghosts and demons. But that's the only real knock I've got with this set, is that there's no ghosts or demons. There's like the Legong kind of floaty Tengu bird dudes, which I didn't get to yet. But of all the things, if you're going to have Lam Ching Ying, look at Mr. Vampire Priests. Where are the Jiangxi? Where are those hopping vampires? Oh my god. If ever there was like a perfect opportunity. So I'm hoping Printerra goes back and gets some hopping vampires, or at least if we ever see a further Chinese set, which I feel would be totally awesome. Even if it's just me. I'm like, I can't be the only one though. But I do love the fact that, like I said, they've had a ton of just interesting, funky sets. Nobody's done the Epic of Gilgamesh for tabletop, really. And I mean, I'll probably get to it. Nobody's bothered to do Indonesian mythology. I was looking at the stuff. I'm like, I got to go check some of this stuff out. I'm not familiar with that much of it. And to me, that's one of the really cool things about tabletop gaming is, you know, I love when people start arguing over historical armies. It gets me interested in it. And, you know, it makes me want to read more and learn more. And to me, that is one of the coolest things that I can get out of tabletop gaming. So grabbing a couple other models from various companies. Why we have samurai fighting with Middle Kingdom Chinese stuff, I don't know. But here we have a Raging Heroes samurai lady from recent. The rest of her friends are a little bit larger, but they're all getting painted. Our typical GW Inquisitor. So you can see these figures are a little bit larger, but like if you're using kind of modern printed stuff that airs more towards the 32 millimeter side of things. Got some Titan Forge and Archvillain stuff here. You can see they're going to fit in a lot better, I think. And obviously, being 3D printed, you are at the whims of whatever size you want them to be. And I'm still impressed also, not only with our Kung Fu lady, but the fact that our priest's tassels on his sword actually printed off in one piece. I'm afraid to cut off that one little bit there. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think these figures are going to match quite well with a lot of the other stuff out there. I am itching to try my hand as I figure out this new printer's settings with getting some of the other scenery pieces done. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But just a fun, cool set. And as I've said many times on this channel, number one, the fact that I want the Chinese, fantastical stuff. But number two, just the fact that we're doing something different. I like that. How many, not to knock the usual, chaosy dudes or elves or dwarves. I mean, because let's be honest, those are a dime a dozen. And it's really going to be the unique stuff to me that I'm going to want to jump out and print, paint, use in a game. Or something just very characterful and flavorful. So the fact that Printerra is really kind of carving out their own little corner of the 3D printed world with really unique entries into tabletop gaming, I'm all for it. And I would love to see more stuff coming from them. And I got to say, even though I thought the renders were a little iffy, and maybe that's just me, I know a lot of people, ever since Raging Heroes started doing those kind of, monochrome color coated shiny metallics, spot coloring on their renders. A lot of other companies have picked up on that. I mean, it is a neat look. Let's not deny things. But for these models, it didn't work for me. But having them in hand, in person, everything clicks. So yeah, kudos to you, Printerra. And naturally, I'm going to put a link down below for everybody to check out this stuff for both their My Mini Factory page and their Patreon, because we do want to see the upstarts and the up-and-comers getting their moment in the sun. So, with that said, this has been High Lord Tamerlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.